Welcome back to the news at 10. Experts have identified ICT as a major source of generating revenue and creating jobs in Nigeria to serve as an alternative in the face of dwindling oil prices. However, for Nigeria to fully benefit the potentials that lie in the ICT sector, it must ensure that Nigerians living in the rural and urban areas are connected to either broadband or mobile internet. In this next report, our online correspondent Victor Matthias takes a look at how close Nigeria is to fulfilling its potential in the ICT sector.
Information and communication technology (ICT) has become a crucial factor in the survival of individuals, businesses, and governments globally. However, with millions of Nigerians living in poverty, coupled with the high cost of data, Nigeria is yet to tap the full benefits ICT can provide.
ICT, it is a major tool to any economic development in any part of the world. In fact, we should build it strongly. It is a major tool.
As the House of Representatives consider the proposed communication service tax, which would require consumers of communication services to pay a 9% tax for the use of these services, experts say this move may hamper ICT development in the country.
That's a wrong move. For years, when Amazon started, it was actually an act of Congress that people didn't pay sales tax to be bought online. We see how much Amazon is contributing to the economy of the U.S. today. So we cannot be short-sighted. You cannot tax the inputs because that limits how much there is to invest. We have to focus on outputs, taxations, and our government has to understand that.
The question that comes to mind is, what is the government doing to move the country towards ICT growth?
With a significant percentage of Nigeria's population having access to mobile cellular services, the increasing and sustained growth in internet usage and broadband deployment, the government, through the Ministry of Communications and its various smart initiatives, are focused on leveraging ICT to create an inclusive economy.
This year's World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland had as its theme the Fourth Industrial Revolution, indicating that it is time for a paradigm shift. Already, in advanced countries, people have begun to walk the talk.
My dad has actually used the internet to repair tractors and to buy equipment that he needs because he can go online, so we don't have to worry about traveling 2 to 3 hours to get a piece of equipment. I've also am able to look up like laws, regulations that might affect me as a grower.
The same may not be said of Nigerian rural farmers, but with over 90 million Nigerians connected to mobile internet, experts believe it is the right path to follow. If Nigeria is to join the Fourth Industrial Revolution and achieve its goal of being one of the top 20 economies by the year 2030, it must embrace ICT in all sectors to stimulate the economy and improve ICT penetration in both mobile telephony and broadband services to all parts of the country, no matter how remote. Victor Matthias, Channel Television News.
Let's talk more about this now. I'm being joined on the news at 10 by an IT expert, Mr. Wande Adalemo. Thank you for joining us tonight on the news at 10.
Thank you.
Well, we were talking as that report was going on, and you said it's quite difficult, trying to figure out how many Nigerians are actually, have a knowledge of ICT.
Exactly. There are too many figures that are bandied around, especially figures that has to do with how many of us are connected to the internet. If I have 2 or 3 networks in my home, I am connected to the internet, but there's 3 people connected to the internet, and I'm still the same person that has those 3 networks. So there's something wrong with that. Then there's something wrong with the quality of the internet that can allow us to develop in the first place. We don't have that kind of quality. So when you say people can just do 1 or 2 gig and they pay 30% of their household income every month to get very limited internet, there's no development and innovation that can come from that. So that's another huge problem. And we don't have data. We can't really get practical data that we can use to now determine and plot a graph to say, okay, this is where we want to get to next. And there is no policy that has been standardized over time to say that in the next 5 years, this is what broadband will play and what role it will play as far as Nigeria is concerned.
But let's try looking into the future just for a bit. What role can ICT play in the government's quest for a diversified economy?
Well, the question, the first thing we look at is ICT is not a tool that you just pick from the street and say, go solve this problem, like some Superman. You need to have a strategy. Then you now begin to look at what tools can solve this strategy. If I want to sell a product and I have 5 people around me, but I have capacity to sell to 200 people, I can now begin to think, how do I get online to reach more people from the 10 immediate I have around me? And then I begin to solve my problem of expanding my market using ICT tools. So the government must first of all ask themselves, what is our strategic long-term plan? What kind of platform do I want to become as a country? Let us assume that the government says, I want to become the agricultural platform for the global food economy. Fantastic. So we begin to now think of how do we go about precision agriculture, because that is ICT based. We move away from mechanized agriculture into precision agriculture. And if we say precision agriculture, what exactly are the cash crops we're looking at in the next 5 years that can quickly give us returns on investment? Then entrepreneurs, and Nigerian entrepreneurs are really trying hard, can now begin to develop tools that will now support your stated goal of precision agriculture in the next 3 years. Oh, I want to become the health platform for Africa. So ICT entrepreneurs can now begin to develop tools that will aid that platform, that goal. But we don't even have that strategic goal of what platform Nigeria wants to become. First of all, before we now say, oh, these are the tools available or necessary to develop to now meet that goal in the next 5, 10, 20 years. Without that, we really cannot begin to say, oh, these are the kind of ICT tools the government needs to leapfrog and to make diversification possible.
Yeah, if I'm understanding what you're saying, the ICT is not a sector on its own that we should, it's not a sector we should diversify into.
Exactly.
It is a tool that should help already diversified sectors to develop.
Exactly.
Okay, so since you were talking about leapfrogging, how do you think that we can, using ICT, leapfrog into the much talked about 4th industrial revolution?
Again, we look at the kind of platform we want to become, and then we look at our tertiary institutions. When people say that you have broadband must be available, I agree. But if I have broadband in my home, what do I do with it now? I watch videos, I download music. I don't get productive with it as much as, but broadband solves a lot of tools. And why is that the case? Because we don't get innovation from our research centers, our knowledge centers, our universities. So the first thing is our universities must have pervasive broadband. There must be incentives for people to begin to innovate. Once we have that incentive in place and students begin to innovate solutions that solve real-world problems over broadband within that university environment, then it permeates into the general environment. And there will be a need for broadband because now I have services, I have utilities that can only run on broadband. And then government will not be forced to put their services also online to catch up with what the citizenry has already done. But our universities are lacking. There is no single Nigerian university that has pervasive broadband access. None. There's no single Nigerian university that every single member of the academic community can have access to about a minimum of 4 Mbps, 4 megabits per second. There's none. And if you don't have this base, we cannot begin to innovate to now get into the 4th industrial revolution. We must have a university that says we want to understand how to develop 3D printers because we want to become a manufacturing platform. And we can leapfrog manufacturing because we have 3D printers. Because 3D printers print cars, houses now. So a university must teach us how to manufacture 3D printers. If that's what Nigeria does for the next 20 years, I can assure you that Nigeria cannot begin to become something that will help us now say, okay, we're taking advantage of ICT.
Wande, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the News at 10. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. When we come back, well, it's on to business news with Adeshawa Josh.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Business News. Nigeria needs to overhaul its export policies to compete favorably with other frontier markets around the world. And this is the view of the management of the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. At an awareness session with exporters in Lagos, the management advised exporters to key into its Zero to Export initiative.
three objectives. One, to develop the capacity of will-be exporters, because knowledge is key. In this business, it's not just anything. You need to know your product very well. I used to tell you, know your product. After knowing your product, you know your market. After knowing your market, you know all the processes. And we are training you not to engage consultant, but be your consultant. And that's what we are doing. And two, is also to give you insight to the processes that is involved. And three, also to introduce you to all the logistics.
Export business is tomorrow's business. Your packaging must be right. Your labeling must be right in order to get your goods out. And you must be able to negotiate with. There are so many. It's not Nigeria that are fraudulent people. All over the world, they are ready to come and dupe you. People are coming to dupe us on cashew, dupe us on cocoa, dupe us on sesame.
The national president of the Trade Union Congress, Mr. Boboy Kaigama, is asking the federal government to cushion the effect of the dwindling value of the naira on the economy. He made the call at a forum of the Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria during the week. According to him, the effect of the devalued currency is hampering investments and efforts to secure the future of Nigerians.
Adopt more robust approach in handling the challenges in the foreign exchange market occasioned by the fall in the price of crude oil. The reverse is, however, the case. The fate of the masses, particularly workers, is now hanging in the balance as there is widespread hunger in the land. Government should therefore quickly, without measures, work out measures that will cushion the biting effects of the devalued currency on the people.
In other news, average interbank money market rates fell by 552 basis points to close at 14.14% week on week. Earlier this week, rates moved southwards, the key driver being the release of federal allocations into the system. However, aggressive OMO auctions by the Apex Bank during the week pressured rates in subsequent sessions. Now, system liquidity increased following additional 156.99 billion naira inflow from OMO maturity. The overnight rate experienced the largest contraction, falling by about 16 percentage points to close at 4.56%. Similarly, the 1-, 3-, and 6-month rates declined. In the meantime, sentiments remain dampened in the Treasury bills markets, driven by the hike in the monetary policy rate to 14% and high stop rates of 18.5% on the 364-day bill and 18% on the 288-day and 297-day bills. Accordingly, average yield increased by 240 basis points to close at 16.82%. The short, mid, and long ends of the curve expanded, also recorded some expansion in that regard. In the meantime, the CBN is expected to conduct an auction next week, Wednesday, where it will offer 245.18 billion naira worth of treasury bills. Well, following Tuesday's Monetary Policy Committee's decision, bearish sentiments persist in the bond market. As a result, average yield rose by 107 basis points week on week to close at 16.36%. The short, mid, and long ends of the curve likewise expanded following significant increases in the July 2017, March 2024, and January bonds. However, the March 2036 bond attracted investor interest. And finally, on business news tonight, the Nigerian equities market closed on a positive note this week, driven by better than expected company earnings released so far. The market also reacted to the increase in monetary policy rate by the CBN from 12 to 14%, which led to a 1.14% jump in the all-share index on Tuesday. The key broad index ended the week at 1.27% higher, with a higher market capitalization of 9.62 trillion naira. That's business news tonight. The news at 10 continues in a moment. I am Adeshewa Josh.
Still ahead on the news at 10, the Nigerian Wrestling Federation unveils as 7 wrestlers, to represent the country at next month's Olympics. We'll have more in sports news.